Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new on my channel, then welcome. Today's video is going to be all about brushes. I decided it was time to go back to basics, and I know that a few of you guys requested me to do more of these technique related videos, or as I already said, like going back to the main basis of doing makeup. And since I know that a lot of people really struggle with makeup brushes, they don't know which ones are good, what are they exactly meant for, so I decided to pick out my essential makeup brushes that I cannot do without. I think these are like the basics that you would need if you wanted to do a full face of makeup. And yeah, I mean, you don't need to have like hundreds of brushes. You can actually make do with a few of them. The trick is to know what you're after, know what kind of look you want to achieve, and which brushes will give you that desired look. And hopefully today's video will help you out in that department. Without further ado, let's just jump into this. I'm first going to start off with eye brushes because that's how I normally like to do my makeup. The first, and I think one of my most favorite makeup brushes of all, is the Zoeva 228 Luxe Crease Brush. You have seen me use this in, I believe, almost every single tutorial that I have ever done on my channel. I love Zoeva brushes in general. I think that they are great value for money. They are such good quality. They are so soft. They work like a dream. And the Luxe Crease Brush is absolutely hands down my favorite brush that they make. So this is just a regular blending brush. Did I already say that? This is a blending brush. It's really fluffy. It's domed on the top. So it is perfect for the crease work. It fits right into the socket of the eye. You can do windshield wiper motions or circular motions, whichever you prefer. And this just applies color and blends it out perfectly at the same time. Because this is a blending brush, you can use it to blend out the edges of any eyeshadow that you apply. You don't only have to use this in the crease just because it says it's a crease brush. You can actually even use this to highlight the nose or highlight the cheekbones. You can use this to contour the nose. Any kind of detailed work that needs to blow out the color, blending brush is perfect for that. Next up is a brush that I absolutely adore for the outer corner work, or also the outer corner crease work, and it is the Zoeva 227 Luxe Soft Definer. Did I say Luxe? Luxe. This is kind of similar to the 228. They are both rather fluffy, but it's more so clean cut on the top and it's not as round. It's much more square, so it fits perfectly into the outer corner, and you can do a beautiful V-shape with it. You guys know I love my V-shapes. And because it is quite dense, it picks up a lot of pigment, so it's really good for packing the shadow on the eyelid and also blending it out with the fluffy edges on the side. But I mean, of course, you can absolutely work this the whole way in the crease. Even today, creating this eye look, I used this brush to do this reddy, orangey kind of background that you can see on the red, on the darkest red at the bottom. I use this to just kind of create that halo effect on the crease area. I hope it makes sense. But yeah, this brush is perfect for crease work as well, and as I already said, for the outer corners. Now this next brush is the final piece of the main, like the most essential brushes in my opinion, and it is the Zoeva 234 Luxe Smokey Shader Brush. It is basically just a regular packing brush. Shader brushes tend to be densely packed and very slim, as you can I don't know if you can see, but they tend to be quite slim. And the reason why shader brushes are packed so densely is so that the bristles wouldn't blow out the pigment in all different directions. They are good for packing color on the lid, but they are especially perfect for doing very specifically carved out looks, like cut creases or something like that. For instance, what you can see on my eyelids today, I also used this kind of shader brush, and it's perfect for carving out and packing on color in a very specific area. And thanks to the bristles being so condensed, I hope I'm using the right term, the pigment will stay exactly where you place it. You could also use this brush to highlight the brow bone or highlight the inner corners. You could actually use this even, and I have used this on the lower lash line as well. If you wanted to do a very defined line or something that's very, very close to the lash line so that the color again wouldn't go too far down, then this is again perfect for that as well. So now that we have covered the essential brushes, we are moving on to brushes that are nice to have. The first one is again a Zoeva brush, and it is the 224 Luxe Defined Crease Brush. Even though this says Luxe Defined Crease, I actually use this for my outer corners most of the time again. And I mean, I do take it in the crease as well, but I mostly stay in the outer V region, simply because this is very, very flimsy. There aren't that many bristles here, so that again makes it really easy to smoke something out and make it like extra blended. So as you probably gathered from everything that I have already said, I like using this to get a very blown out smoky outer corner. And because this doesn't have that many bristles in here, it's not that dense, it doesn't pick up too much pigment, which is perfect, especially for darker shades. You want to start off with a very, very light layer and then build your way up. So that's why I love using this brush in the outer corner to create that perfectly blended dark smoke. You could also use this to highlight the face very lightly or do some nose contouring. You can use this in the same ways that you could use the other blending brush. Next up is a brush that I got from a makeup store here in Estonia. The name has pretty much rubbed off, and I don't even think that they sell this brush anymore. I don't normally name this brush, and every single time I label it in any of my videos, I always just call it a random pencil brush, because that's pretty much what it is. It's just very, very nice to do some detailed work on the eyes, or you could also use this underneath the lower lash line, but I don't use it for any of those purposes actually. This is my brow bone and my inner corner highlighting brush. The shape of this and the size of this is perfect to get right into the inner corner and get that nice highlight, or underneath the brow very, very specifically, because you guys know I do not like to emphasize that hooded area, which is already large enough as it is. So I normally keep the brow bone highlight very, very close to the arch of my brow, and I try to make it as subtle as possible, and this brush is perfect for that, so that is why I use it. Now I'm going to actually talk about these next two brushes together because they are very similar in my eyes, and since I'm already talking about brushes that are perfect for detailed work, these two brushes I love for that exact reason. This one is the e.l.f. Eye Crease Brush, and this black one is actually again a random one that I think I got from Forever 21 I don't know, years and years ago when I was still living in England. I just bought like a small brush set, and this was one of the brushes in there, and it was super cheap. I mean, this is like not the best quality, definitely, but it's actually so nice for the lower lash line. I'm sure that if you have been watching my tutorials again, you will have recognized this brush, because a lot of times I use this brush underneath my lower lash line to blend something out, or again to pack a color very close to the lower lash line. And the e.l.f. one, again, even though it says eye crease brush, I do not use this in the crease normally. I do sometimes when I want to do detailed work in the crease, when I want to place a specific color in a very specific area and I want to just keep it in that area, then I will use this brush. But normally, again, I like to use this in the outer corners. As I said, it's very similar shape and size wise to the random Forever 21 brush, but because it is slightly bigger, I tend to use this on the top lid rather than the lower lid. Of course, there are so many other really good eye brushes out there. I just picked out some of the brushes that I use almost on a daily basis that I really cannot do without, so that is just my selection. But now we are moving on to face brushes. And the first face brush that I want to cover is my favorite highlighting brush, and this again should come as no surprise to you if you have been watching my tutorials. It is the Real Techniques setting brush, and it is actually meant for setting the concealer underneath your eyes. I mean, you can see the shape of this, and this fits again perfectly in that area, but I love to highlight with this brush. Do you see how nicely this packs on the highlighter on the cheeks? It's not too big, but it is not too small either. And because this is again really, really densely packed, it does pick out quite a lot of pigment so that you can create that blinding highlight with it. And now that I think about it, you could actually use this brush to contour the face as well. It's not that round, it is slightly pressed on the sides, so you could get right into the hollow of the cheek and chisel out that cheekbone. When I look at the shape of this, it actually reminds me of the Anastasia A23 brush. Yeah, this actually reminds me of that one, but it is way more affordable. It is Real Techniques, so it's drugstore. I believe Real Techniques brushes, at least most of them, are synthetic, if not all of them. And for that reason, they are not as soft as natural hair brushes, but they are so resilient. I have had this brush, or all of my Real Techniques brushes, for years and years again. I don't think I've ever seen a Real Techniques brush shed. Ever. Now I know that I was talking about a very blinding highlight and I said that because I know that it is a look that a lot of people love to rock, and that's absolutely fine by me, but I just don't like that look on myself. I like my highlight to be noticeable, but I like it to very much blend into the skin and look like it is coming from within my skin. So for that reason, I always turn to this little guy. I love this brush so much. It is the e.l.f. small tapered brush. It doesn't actually say the name of the brush anywhere on the brush, but I remember it so well. I again bought this from the States, and I mean, it's an e.l.f. brush, so it was really affordable. I can't remember how much it was exactly, but I believe it was around like $3 or $4. The two main things that I like to use this brush for are, first of all, to blend out the highlight that I have applied on my face, to kind of take away that intensity, that excess powder on my face. So that is one way that I like to use this brush. And the other way is actually applying some powder underneath my eyes. Sometimes when I feel that my under eyes are still too dark, even after concealing and setting them down with powder, I do like to take a bit of the Bare Minerals powder concealer, and I have mine in the shade Well Rested, which is a beautiful brightening powder, and sometimes I dip this, the top part, into that powder and I just tap it right into the darkest area of my under eyes, which is most usually in the front part of the eye, right near the inner corners. So again, because of this shape, this is like a diamond shape. Am I saying it correctly? It has a nice precise tip to it, which fits perfectly in that under eye area. So you could use this for setting underneath the eyes as well. You could use this to contour. You could use this to highlight even. You could use this to clean up the cheek underneath the contour. Again, several uses. Love this brush to death. Wish we had e.l.f. here. Now this brush, again, belongs to one of my holy grail most favorite brushes. It's again one of those random brushes that I got from the makeup store here in Estonia, and I haven't seen this brush since. This is my bronzer brush, or at least that's what I use this for. I can't think of the word that I want to use for this, so I'm just going to say tapered. It's nice and tapered. It kind of hugs the cheekbone perfectly so that I can get a somewhat precise line underneath the brow, underneath the cheek, but then I can also blend it out into my hairline and up the cheeks. You could use it for blush if you wanted to. I mean, it's maybe a bit too big for a blush brush, but you know, you could in theory use it for a blush as well. Or if you wanted to, you could use this underneath the contour to clean up the line on the cheek as well. I really wish that I could tell you where to get this brush from, but this has a very general shape to it, so these kinds of brushes are just, I'm sure that you can find something similar wherever you live. Now I quickly want to brush over this one. Did you get the pun? I quickly want to mention this brush and get it over with because I do not like to wear blush almost ever. Very rarely do I wear blush, but I feel because I'm talking about essential brushes, I know that blush is essential to a lot of people, I'm quickly going to mention my favorite blush brush. It is, again, one of the random ones from the Forever 21 set. This was in the set with the little pencil brush. It is very similar in shape to the bronzer brush. It's just more tiny and it's not as blown out as this one. The bristles are again a bit more condensed and, as I already said, it's smaller. So I feel that it is perfect for applying blush. You could use this to bronze the face as well. I mean, it would just take you a bit more time because the brush is smaller, but in theory you could do that as well. And to finish up this video, I am quickly going to brush over what I like to use to apply my foundation and all that good stuff. I have two brushes that I love to apply foundation with, the Real Techniques buffing brush and the Zoeva 102 Silk Finish. This one is so nice for applying foundation. It is incredibly densely packed, so I love using this brush to buff foundation into the skin or pat it into the skin. I love how evenly this applies the foundation. It doesn't leave any streaks. It blends it into the skin perfectly. The only issue that I have with this one is that it is super difficult to get clean because of the incredibly densely packed bristles. The foundation gets sucked into the center of these. But if you want to keep it drugstore, then the buffing brush by Real Techniques is a stunning foundation brush as well. This one is more round and this one is more, what's the word? It's still nice and round, it's just not as round as the Zoeva one. But again, this is perfect for buffing the foundation into the skin or packing it on and just using pressing motions. So if you want a drugstore priced brush, then this one is definitely one to check out. I use brushes only occasionally. Most of the time now, I use a sponge to blend out my foundation or to blend out my concealer underneath my eyes. I'm sorry, this is dirty because I just used it for my makeup today. This is the Eco Tool sponge. I have talked about this guy. You guys know I am not a fan of this. I still do not think very much of this sponge, but it gets the job done. So I'm just going to use it up, and then once it's like completely destroyed, I'm going to go back to a beauty blender because in my experience, nothing compares to a beauty blender. Don't take this as like a recommendation. This is just a reference to tell you guys about why I love a sponge or a beauty blender that much for applying my foundation and concealer, because it's damp and it's squishy. It works the foundation into the skin so beautifully. It really pushes it into the skin, and also because it's a sponge, it will soak up some of the excess product, so you won't get that cakey looking effect. And I love that it makes the skin look more skin-like. It gives it that nice dewiness, and I also feel that it distributes the product a bit more evenly. You will never get any issues with like streaks or anything like that with a sponge. So when it comes to applying a perfect base, I would always recommend a sponge, and more specifically a beauty blender. And this was the whole video, guys. I hope that this wasn't way too long, but something tells me that I have been sitting here and talking about these brushes for ages and ages and ages. So yeah, I just hope, I really truly from the bottom of my heart hope that this video was helpful and that you learned something new, something useful. I do believe that it is really important to invest in good brushes. They don't have to be the most fancy thing on the market. For instance, the Zoeva brushes, I love them to death. I think they are such good quality, but they do not break the bank. I mean, depending on how many you buy and all that kind of stuff, but they are reasonably priced in my opinion. I have never tried MAC brushes. I have tried a few Sigma brushes, and in my opinion, they are just ridiculously overpriced. I do not see the point in them. So yeah, I do not think that you need to spend heaps and heaps of money to get good quality brushes, but good quality brushes do help you out in creating beautiful makeup looks. If you have good tools, you can make even really crappy makeup products work. But if you don't have good tools, you can have the best eyeshadow palettes out there, but they just won't give you that effect that they could if you did have good brushes. That is my 2 cents on the whole topic of brushes. I really hope you like this video and you guys already know what to do. If you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would love to be able to welcome you to our little family. That is all from me for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!